Today's story is Two Little Boys, 10 Big Plagues, written by Carol Craven Bates and illustrated by Jan Church Hopkins. If you would like a copy of this book, there's a link for it in the description. Chapter 10. Without going to see Pharaoh to warn him of another impending plague, the Lord told Moses to stretch his hand toward heaven so that a thick blackness would come over the land of Egypt. God was about to send a darkness so intense the people would be able to feel it. This time the plague would last 3 full days. As Moses lifted his hand toward heaven, the light started to fade immediately. Moses hurried home before it got too dark to see his way. When he was safely outside the boundary of Egypt, Moses told the Israelites about the newest plague. He told them the thick darkness was only for the Egyptians. It wouldn't affect them in any way. They would still have light. Just as in the plague of flies, murrain, boils, terrifying hailstorm, and locusts, the darkness plague stopped right at the very edge of the land of Goshen. The children of Israel could see the blackness over the land of Egypt. Some of the people went right to the edge of the road that divided the two lands so they could get a better look. The Israelites could feel the heavy darkness. It felt frightening just standing next to it. It was not only dark in Egypt, it was intensely dark. The Egyptians could not even see someone standing right next to them. All the people of Egypt were frightened to the point of being terrified. They huddled in their beds, afraid to move for 3 days. After the darkness finally lifted, Pharaoh called for Moses. Pharaoh informed him the Hebrew people and their children were free to go serve their God, but their flocks and herds must stay in Egypt. Moses explained to Pharaoh again that the children of Israel must take their flocks and herds. The animals were needed for sacrifices and burnt offerings to their God. Moses stated, "Not a hoof shall be left behind." Pharaoh wasn't used to anyone disobeying his commands. Usually if someone talked back or disobeyed his orders, they were executed. Pharaoh was furious with Moses. Nevertheless, he didn't know what to do with him. Pharaoh thought for a long time. Finally, he told Moses to leave his presence. He never wanted to see his face again. Pharaoh yelled, "The day you see my face again, you will die." Moses was getting tired of Pharaoh lying to him. He became just as irate as Pharaoh. Moses shouted back in the same fierce tone, "You have spoken well, because I will never see your face again." Moses left the palace without looking behind him. He was in a hurry to get back to the children of Israel. He had to tell the people to start packing. As soon as he stepped foot in Goshen, Moses called a special meeting. He told everyone to get ready. They were going home. Moses declared, "Before long, these people will be begging us to leave." He informed the Israelites not to be afraid of the Egyptians any longer. Moses encouraged them to go borrow all the gold and silver jewelry they could possibly get, along with any other valuables they would like to take with them on their trip. When the cheering finally died down, Moses advised the Israelites there would be one last plague across the land of Egypt. This time, he warned, we have something we must do to keep the plague from coming upon us. Moses instructed the children of Israel that they were to kill a lamb for their final meal in Egypt. The lamb must be without blemish and not yet a year old. If their family was too small for a whole lamb, they were to share it with their closest neighbor. Moses cautioned, "Listen carefully. You are to take a hyssop branch, dip it into the blood from the lamb, and put it on the top and the 2 side posts of your door. Then everyone is to stay inside their house until morning. God is going to pass through Egypt at midnight tonight. At every home that doesn't have the blood on the door, the firstborn will be slain." Jalen thought of Qatar, the older brother of his friend Miko. He wished there was some way Qatar could be spared. Jalen shared his fear with his mom and dad. Time was very important. Mr. and Mrs. Grossman decided Jalen and his dad must go and talk with the pariah family, while Leah went to borrow items from the Egyptians. They all left immediately. Mr. Grossman gave permission for Jalen to run on ahead. He would be right behind him at a somewhat slower pace. Jalen took off running as fast as he could go to the home of his friend. When Jalen arrived at the temporary dwelling of the pariah family, things had changed. They were no longer warm and friendly toward him. Mr. Pariah held on to the stable door and blocked Jalen from seeing around him. He wasn't invited inside, and Miko couldn't go outside. Jalen tried to explain about the impending danger for the firstborn of Egypt, but Mr. Pariah asked him to leave and closed the door. Jalen was crying as his dad arrived at the building. Mr. Grossman instructed Jalen to knock again. This time, Mrs. Pariah answered the door and invited them inside their makeshift home. Jalen stopped crying and tried to take deep breaths. Mr. Grossman wasted no time in telling the distressed family about the final plague God was about to send on Egypt. He explained how this plague would take the life of the firstborn of everyone in Egypt. Every household would be affected unless they did as God required. David then invited everyone to come to his house and avoid any further pain. He told how there would be safety under the blood, but they must take action without delay, because tomorrow it would be too late. Silence reigned for several minutes in which no one moved or seemed to take a breath. Mr. Grossman silently prayed that the family would make the right decision. To Jalen, it seemed like an hour had dragged by. Finally, Ishka burst into tears. Turning toward her husband, she gasped, "Surely you see the hand of God in all these plagues we've suffered. If we don't do what the God of the Hebrews requires, we'll lose our boy. That would be more than I could endure." Mr. Pariah listened thoughtfully as his wife spoke. After another few minutes, he shook his head yes. "Yes, you're right. We must obey the God of the Hebrews. We will go to Goshen and put ourselves under the protection of the blood on the doorposts, and Qatar will live." Jalen had mixed emotions. He was happy that his best friend and his family would be safe, but he was sad for all the sorrow that would fall on the Egyptian people later that evening. After returning home, Jalen had a long talk with his dad about all the deaths that would occur in Egypt that night. Mr. Grossman told Jalen he was learning hard lessons early in life, but there were some things that man could not change. He needed to be strong, look ahead to the promises of God, and not look back. Jalen knew his father was right, but it was indeed a hard lesson. Later, Jalen had another talk with his dad. This time, it was his father who brought up the subject matter. Mr. Grossman asked Jalen how he felt about parting with his lamb. He pointed out how the family needed to kill a perfect lamb for their dinner that evening, one without a single blemish. Jalen was aware that the only animal his family owned that fit the required description was the pet lamb he was raising. Jalen quickly determined that his lamb was the one that needed to be offered. Jalen was growing up. He felt good that he had been able to raise a perfect lamb, one that could be given so his family and friends could be saved on their last night in Egypt. There would be other lambs, but this one was needed at this time. At sunset, David Grossman called a meeting in his home. The meeting included his family, the Pariah family, and two of their closest Hebrew neighbors who were also spending the night. Mr. Grossman explained how the evening and their meal would proceed. Looking directly at Mr. Pariah, David stated, "Ramar, you and your family are truly welcome to stay in our home and under the safety of the blood. However, you will not be allowed to partake of the Passover meal, since you and your family are not Israelites." Mr. Grossman continued, "The Hebrew nation is about to celebrate our very first Feast of Unleavened Bread. The feast must be fulfilled exactly as God has commanded, and only a true Israelite can participate. I want you to know that no one will go hungry. You and your family will be served from other food in the house." Ramar Pariah assured his host, "My wife and I are grateful just to have our family safe for tonight. We're thankful your family cared enough to advise us of the upcoming danger. It will be a long and dreadful night. The fact that you welcomed us into your home is enough." As frightened as the members of the Pariah family were, they were not thinking about food right then. Everyone had suffered so much from all the other plagues, they were afraid of going through another one. If this night passed without tragedy, they would leave first thing in the morning to go back to their home. If their family made it through the night intact, they would ask for nothing else.